Evening.
Good evening.
We're on.
Okay, 31st of July, 10 to 1 in the morning.
Yeah.
And it's another VC session sharing.
Yeah.
Month of July. It's
Hello, everybody.
Rather autumnal here.
Yeah, it's not very summery tonight.
No, not very summery. But anyway, here we go. We've got a very Miles/funk inflected session.
Very much so.
And we kicked off, of course, with Miles. From Miles in the Sky, the track was Paraphernalia, and this was, well, we reckon, 2 albums before Miles went fully electric. So there was just the beginnings of the electric piano and the electric bass appearing on this album. And George Benson made a surprise appearance on the track Paraphernalia that we listened to. Very underrated, classy Miles album.
Great album.
Tony Williams on fire on the drums.
It's amazing on this whole album, I think, actually.
Yeah, Herbie on piano, Wayne Shorter, Ron Carter, Tony Williams and George Benson on this one tune. And Miles sounding fantastic.
Yeah.
Sitting on a lion's head here.
Yeah.
So that set the tone.
On his way
for
down
the
to see
session.
Sly Stone, but we won't go into that story.
No.
Following up from that, weirdly enough, we have one of these moments when Mark suddenly mentioned saying, I really want to check out some Gabor Szabo, just as I was about to pull out a Gabor Szabo album. So I played the title track of Spellbinder, which is from the late 60s. I think it's from 68 or 69. 66, actually.
Wow.
With Gabor, with Ron Carter and Chica Hamilton and Willie Bobo and Victor Pantoja on congas. I'm a big fan of Gabor Szabo. I really like his stuff. And this is from the period, kind of middle period, I guess, for him, just before he made 2 or 3 albums for Impulse, and then he went off and did a few for CTI.
But he also then set up the Sky record label with Gary McFarlane, which is the label that this next album appears on. This is the Chuck Rainey Coalition. So Chuck Rainey, the very celebrated session bass player on many, many records that I'm sure many of you will have. Yeah, I'm just sort of exploring the Sky record label a bit at the moment. Kind of quite intrigued by various releases. And we listened to a track called The Rain Song, a very short track, with very prominent Chuck Rainey bass lines and great sort of string arrangement by Gary McFarlane.
Sounded really good. There's I've been listening a lot to. There's a website put together by a guy called Jake Feinberg. He does amazing long interviews with a lot of kind of session musicians and also kind of unsung kind of interesting musicians from jazz, funk, soul, also country scene as well. And they're great interviews, actually. And there's a very long interview with Chuck Rainey. And he also talks about, obviously, his work with Harvey Mason and work with the Mizell brothers on Donald Byrd's Blackbird and all of the various Mizell brothers production, including Bobby Humphrey, Gary Bartz, etc. Played the track Love So Far Away off this one, which is the first fully kind of funked up version of Donald Byrd, really. I mean, he had made some electric jazz albums before, but this was the first one with the Mazels.
And as John was saying, well, Chuck was saying that they had a lot of fun recording these back.
Yeah, you can hear, and Harvey Mason was talking about this as well, you can hear that they were just having a gas really working on these things. And
carrying on with the Mizell brothers productions, we had Donald Byrd's Street Lady. Was this the second album, maybe?
I think so. I think it might have been, yeah.
Yeah, very funky album. Yeah, check it out.
By then we were definitely flying, and then went for the track Acupuncture off Eddie Henderson's Heritage, which was his, I think it's his first or second album for Blue Note. Has the amazing Paul Jackson, Mike Clark rhythm section on here. Also features some kind of leftovers from the Mowandishi, Herbie Hancock kind of lineup on here. Playing keyboards on this one was Patrice Russian, sounding great actually.
Really good.
But also Mtume's on here, and particularly the combination of Mike Clark and Paul Jackson.
And Patrick Gleason.
Patrick Gleason features on here as well.
Who also features on this album, which is the Julian Priester.
No, in fact, Patrick Gleason's not on this album.
Oh, he's not on
I
that
don't
album?
think so. Anyway.
Well, he's on this one.
He's on this one.
But Julian Priester was featured on the Eddie Henderson.
He was indeed.
Yeah. And here is the Julian Priester Love Love album on ECM from 1974 with an incredibly deep groove on the track Love Love, which pretty much takes up the entire side one. Pat Gleason, Bayete, and Dugo on the drums. Eric Gravett on the drums as well. Ron McClure on the bass. Bill Connors on the electric guitar.
That's a classic track.
Ooh.
I think that's my phone.
Was it?
Yeah.
Okay. How to describe this? Definitely sort of Bitches Brew era, sort of jazz, funk, electronic fusion music. Very experimental, lots of amazing textures,
It's great.
fantastic production. The bass sort of full of fat reverb, kind of synth, phasing going on all over the drums. Really great album. If you don't know it,
Classic.
check it out. Not particularly typical ECM, I'd say.
No, I think I got the feeling they didn't. I think it was delivered to them rather than actually commissioned. But it's great stuff. Sticking with the Patrick Gleason connection, went on to Joe Henderson's Black Narcissus album and played the title track. This is Joe working with a mostly European rhythm section. Joachim Kuhn, Jean-Francois Jenny Clark, Daniel Humer, and also Bill Summers, which is another connection back to Herbie, of course, as well. Beautiful tune.
Beautiful dog on the back.
Beautiful dog on the back as well.
Yeah, really amazing tune.
Yeah, and he did version, I think 2 or 3 versions of Black Narcissus on the records as well.
And Joe Henderson features later on, folks.
Yeah.
I think we had a break, a short break, but we came back with some more, I guess, sort of more jazz-inflected funk, really. This is an album called Frantic Diagnosis by George Freeman, who's a guitarist, who I have to say I don't know very much about. There's apparently quite a celebrated tune called The Bump, and I'd seen this album going for quite a lot of money on a UK sort of online record store site, and then I just happened to check it out either on Discogs or eBay and just got it very, very cheap. But I think what makes the album stand out is the presence of Charles Erland, who's playing organ and the ARP synth, and the track The Bump has just got a fantastically deep sort of, I don't know, almost underwater groove with this beautiful kind of delayed synth dancing all over the top of it. So it's on Bamboo Records.
No, I can't actually remember what I played next, but I think it was this.
I think it probably was.
Yeah. Masafumi Kikuchi, the Japanese pianist and keyboard player, sadly died recently, a few weeks ago. And I thought it was worth playing something in his tribute, really. I didn't play this next.
You didn't play this, John, you played that.
I played Little Beaver.
You did.
Okay. Forget that. Cut that bit. Didn't play Masafumi Kikuchi then at all. Played Little Beaver.
Inspired by the guitar.
Inspired by the guitar on the other record.
Of George Freeman.
That's right. Little Beaver made 4 or 5 albums for various kind of TK related labels, Glades and various Miami related labels, Glades and Cat. This is a great record. He worked a lot with Lattimore and worked with Timmy Thomas and all kinds of other people. Betty Wright also did a whole load of stuff from this kind of time. This, we think, features one of the first appearances of Jaco Pastorius under another name.
What is the another name?
And he's under the name of
Jocko.
Nelson Jocko Padron, who we believe is pretty sure is Jaco Pastorius, and played the track "I Can Dig It, Baby."
Yeah.
Little Beaver's great. I mean, kind of. I don't know if you can see how sartorially quite an interesting character, but also great kind of just funky guitarist, really.
Funky guitarist and great singer.
Great singer.
And definitely a bit like George Freeman, one of those guitarists who doesn't play a lot of notes, but the notes that he does play have a lot of meaning behind them.
Yeah. Really, all his records on Glades or Cat are worth getting.
Yeah, actually. I think so. So, the connection to the next album was the presence of Jaco, and this is Joni Mitchell's classic Hajira album. In fact, we listened to the tune called Amelia, which, funnily enough, doesn't feature Jaco, but it was. It's actually, my daughter has really got into Joni Mitchell and Kate Bush recently, and I'd lent her this album, and she didn't want to give it back, so I had to buy her another copy to get my copy back. But yeah, great
Just
album,
a classic.
absolute classic.
So making the connection with no Jaco,
Yeah.
played the track called "The Chicken," which is obviously covered on Jaco's very first solo album.
Most people associate it with Jaco.
Yeah, and played the original version of it, which is from this album, James Brown Directs and Dance, the James Brown Band, the Popcorn. He does play a bit on it, and there's a few kind of exclamations on it, but it's mostly an instrumental album. And it's just really when James was just turning into the funk, really. But this has got a great sound, this record, very, very crisp, kind of sounding, funky stuff. Very rarely see this record talked about at all.
I'd never seen it before.
But it's great. It's got the original version of the Popcorn on here as well, actually.
Which is written by Pee Wee Ellis.
Which is written by Pee Wee Ellis.
Or
Indeed.
Chicken is.
The Chicken is written by Pee Wee Ellis.
Yeah.
Beg your pardon. Yeah.
So big horns, and then we just caught a very weird little track at the end.
Yeah, which is called The Chase, which I think was a kind of like it's a bit like Miles Davis's theme. It's like the thing they wrapped up their concerts with as well. Anyway, it's worth checking this out, actually.
So the big horn section inspired me to dig out Woody Herman's Giant Steps. So Woody Herman, big band leader, actually made a very funky album here, and it's his version of Freedom Jazz Dance, the Eddie Harris classic. Really great sound, great production, fantastic arrangement, extremely funky. Have a listen, very cheap to find, if you can find that. Cheap to buy, I should say. Cheap to buy, cheap to find.
So then I played... Drum roll. Then I played this record, Wishes Kochi, which is on the Inner City label in the States, and also I think came out on Eastwind in Japan. Really great track with Masafumi, Toru Masahino, Steve Grossman, Dave Liebman, Reggie Lucas. Amazing bass playing from Anthony Jackson. It's really good. Al Foster and Ntume. So very much sounding like Miles possibly would have sounded like if he hadn't retired in 1975. Also has played the track called Auroral Flare, which also has a whole gagaku opening. People who know about Japanese court music will know about gagaku, which is shamisen and shakuhachi and stuff as well. Yeah, so Masafumi, great loss, really nice guy, great piano player. His most recent record was on ECM, which was an acoustic trio with Paul Motion and Thomas Morgan, which is a beauty. It's called Sunrise.
Well, Masafumi Kikuchi also plays piano on this album, which I have shown recently, and this was a VCLT album from Teddy. Thanks again, Teddy. I'm listening to it. It's great. And we listened to it absolutely over the top, sort of full-on sax solo pretty much for the entire track, called Double Stuff from Mike Brecker, with just the band just sounded like unleashed in the studio, kind of the intensity never let up, and
then it was faded. In fact,
it was faded just as it was kind of virtually exploding. But yeah, great stuff. I'd never heard this album before, but again, a kind of indicator possibly of the kind of direction Miles might have been heading in, and this is produced by Teo Macero.
Yep. Then went for first CD of the evening and played the track, it's a medley of Tune In 5 and One Phone Call from this record called Yo Miles Upriver, which is a project put together by the guitarist Henry Kaiser and the trumpeter Wadada Leo Smith. they did 2 or 3 records together with this project, and basically it's them working with Miles' material and also putting some of their own material on, which was in the kind of same kind of sound as, really we're talking about Miles's early to mid 70s electric bands. What made me think of this one was that it's got a full-on solo by Greg Osby, the alto player on there, who just goes for it as well. So
and the band keeps cutting out and just leaving Greg Osby on his own, and then just storms in again.
Which is like a garter, really, which is
Yeah.
what they do on the garter. So that was obviously the kind of theme of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, good stuff actually. The
Intense.
very intense. 2 or 3 of the records. Also, you can download loads of their concerts from archive.org legally.
Keeping up the fierce intensity was getting pretty steamy around this time. We played another version of Freedom Jazz Dance, the Eddie Harris classic tune, this time by Miroslav Vitus, and this is on the album Infinite Search. And this is just a completely on fire album. I mean, he looks very young. I guess everyone was fairly young, but we've got an incredible band with Joe Henderson reappearing here on tenor sax, John McLaughlin guitar, Herbie Hancock piano, and Jack DeJohnette on drums. Just completely going for it in a way that you don't really hear very much these days.
Yeah.
And very intense, incredible bass playing from Miroslav Vitus. I mean, really, if you know the head to Freedom Jazz Dance, it's very, very fast, and I've never heard a bass player play it, but he plays it. He plays the head, then does an incredible solo. Well worth checking out that album on the Embryo label,
which was Herbie Mann's label. Great comping on that record from John McLaughlin as well. The kind of the art of comping is something don't talk about sometimes. Then we had a break, and then we tried to calm things down. I think we did too well actually. Started off with the Fuenzo Neal Pamoja, excuse my pronunciation, record. Ramsey Lewis Trio with Maurice Jennings and Cleveland Eaton, and played the track Slipping Into Darkness, which is pretty much a famous track, very popular in the kind of dance scene in the UK for a while.
Yeah,
as well.
well, there's a very well-known DJ called Norman J here in the UK, and he used to have a Monday night club called the Original Rare Groove. Was it Original Rare Groove Club, I think?
I think so, yeah.
Which was at a club called the Blue Note, which doesn't exist anymore in the East End of London.
It's now probably an artisan baker.
Probably is. And basically, he always used to play this track, Slipping Into Darkness, at the moment where it would sort of go into the sort of full-on dance club scene, and all the lights would actually dim during that tune. So it was always very dramatic.
Yeah.
But you do just sort of slip into this fantastic.
Yeah. So great, good album. I think it might have been his first one on Columbia, actually. Mark talked about Ramsey Lewis at the last session. Underrated, I think. As a musician.
Very underrated. We then played a track by a band I'd never heard of. I can't remember if someone, or maybe a couple of people on the VC have shown this album called Father. It's by Father's Children. It's called Who's Gonna Save the World? A band, I've sort of checked them out a little bit online. Their second album was produced by Wayne Henderson. I think this album was never fully released. We listened to a track called Kahutek. It's quite a varied album, but it's just kind of got a really authentic early 70s funk, harmony, sort of gospel influence, and very raw but really well played. Good stuff.
Yes, nice. Then we started to go a bit random.
Yes.
Although this was just about keeping in the same groove. Played the track First Impressions of Shamek Farar's record on Strata East. I'm sure some people have played this and shown this before. Great piano playing from Sonelius Smith, who's been a bit of a favourite of mine. Nice record all round. Kind of typical Strata East sound, really.
But with this very kind of floaty piano.
Very floaty. I mean, Sonelius Smith is. I think he might have played with Rahsaan Roland Kirk at some point or other as well. But he's got a great, really odd style. Something a little bit like Alice Coltrane, but yeah, not a typical. definitely not coming out of bebop at all. I mean, you might kind of very different kind of sound to his brother playing.
Very, very floaty.
Yeah.
We then, going a bit left field, I just wanted to play a track off the Robert Wyatt Cuckoo Land double vinyl album that I picked up recently, and we listened to the track called Beware, which I guess is a bit of a paranoid tune, actually.
Yeah.
But fantastic album, and a brilliant sort of range of collaborators, and as ever a completely unique individual sound. So for some reason it kind of reminded me a bit of the Specials at one stage. It was just that kind of very original UK vibe, but also sort of quite Beatles-esque.
Yeah.
But with this real kind of jazz thing going on underneath, and quite psychedelic as well.
Psychedelic Specials.
Yeah, there you go.
I think I've shown this in the previous session actually, but I started listening to this again a bit more. This is the record by Julia Holter, which is called Loud City Song. Played the track Horn Surrounding Me, and I think I'm probably picking up a bit of the paranoid thing on the Robert Wyatt something not reflection here, which this has got a kind of horn section which kind of haunts her on this track as well. Interesting album. I think it's a lot of people's record of the year last year actually. It's good stuff.
Well, absolutely no reason why this album should follow after Julia Holter, except I fancied playing it.
It's classic.
It's a classic. It's Big Youth, and it's Dreadlocks Dread, and we listened to the tune called Lightning Flash (Weak Heart Drop), and this is Big Youth sort of DJing over a Yabby You track, and it sounded massive. Actually,
It sounded really good.
It sounded great. Yeah,
I mean,
classic sort of early roots, early DJ, reggae DJ album.
I love that period. Actually,
Yeah.
a lot of really good stuff. Then we were going random completely
Very
this one, but there's no connection at all between that and Manfred Mann's Chapter 3, which was actually known as a heavy bass. Actually.
A heavy bass, good rhythm section.
Good rhythm section. Interesting period. I mean, I have to say I didn't like much of Manfred Mann's stuff before this or after. Actually, I mean this record and this band was quite an odd kind of combination of avant-garde kind of really interesting kind of horn arrangements over a kind of, don't know what kind of rhythm it is really, kind of rocky kind of rhythm. Interesting vocals, great horn arrangements by a guy called Derek Wadsworth on here as well, but kind of worth checking out really. As I say, I didn't really like anything before or after, but this record's a really good one.
There's two, isn't there?
There's two.
Two albums.
Yeah.
Very rare on vinyl.
Yeah, so Manfred Mann's Chapter 3.
Oh, Chapter 3.
Yeah.
Maybe it was Joe Gibbs in dub chapters 1, 2 and 3.
That's what it was. That's exactly what it was.
Could have been, couldn't it?
African dub.
African dub.
Yeah.
Okay, well...
And the green cover.
Yeah.
I think we're clutching at straws.
We were clutching at straws. We were definitely heading towards a kind of more of a wind-down session about this time. And I played this album, Bill Frisell, his first solo album on ECM, called In Line, and surprised John because I knew John is a massive Bill Frisell fan,
Big
but
Bill Frisell
hadn't listened to this for a very long time. Came out in 1982. We listened to the track called In Line, which was just quite a strange track, where it almost sounded like two different tracks kind of intersecting, but kind of worked really nicely. So big innovation.
Sounded quite a lot like Pat Metheny at that time, I thought, as well, which he doesn't do at all now.
Well, the first track, The Beach, on side 2 sounds like Steve Hillage.
Oh, right. Nothing wrong with Steve Hillage.
No, nothing wrong with Steve Hillage, right?
Sticking with ECM, I have to say, I must admit, I'm not a massive Jan Garbarek fan, and what I do like, I tend to like his earlier work, but I do like this record. I took up The Runes, which was came out in 1990, I think it was, with the band with Manu Katché and Eberhard Weber and other people. And played the title track of it. Sounded good, actually.
I love the drums of Manu Katché.
Yeah, generally not my cup of tea, but quite like this band.
I must say thank you to Ben Costello for talking about this album and inspiring me to buy it. This is David Sylvian's double album called Gone to Earth, and we listened to the track Laughter and Forgetting, which features the beautiful flugelhorn of Kenny Wheeler. Beautiful album. Fantastic artist, David Sylvian.
It's very nice to hear that, because I kind of overdosed on David Sylvian and haven't been listening to him too much recently, but that's got me back into it, I think, actually. No real connection at all between David Sylvian and Billie Holiday, I can possibly imagine.
Apart from maybe a bit of melancholy.
I think a bit of melancholy was coming in as well, and played the track Strange Fruit off this record. It's kind of, I think it's a kind of compilation, this record, but it's her accompanied by the Frankie Newton Orchestra. And there's a slightly different version of Strange Fruit on here with a longer instrumental introduction. But you know, there's nothing you can say about that song. It's just a classic, really. And sadly, still has resonance these days.
I then played my last tune of the night, which was from the Bill Evans Trio, the album Everybody Digs Bill Evans, and the absolute classic 6 minute 37 seconds Peace, which is basically kind of two chords that start off very sort of beautiful, and then kind of Bill kind of gradually goes more and more out and becomes quite sort of dissonant and lots of tension, and then it kind of resolves. But a very, very beautiful piece of music, and you just have to listen to it. It's just
great.
the piano, lots of space, beautiful timing and phrasing.
It's kind of a bit of an underrated record, I think. The whole
Is it?
Yeah, I just think people always focus on the stuff from the Village Vanguard and so forth. I think it's a good one, that one. That's a nice original UK edition as well. My last track was the Detroit Spinners, as they were then, from the album Mighty Love. I played the track Love Don't Love Nobody, with the amazing voice of Felipe Wynne on there, who has to be one of my very favourite singers. I love kind of Philly soul, love this kind of time. Detroit Spinners obviously became the Spinners, and Felipe Wynne ended up in Parliament Funkadelic and various other places as well. Anyway, just a beautiful ballad, really.
And had a book written about him.
Well, I think, there's an amazing book by a guy called Jonathan Lethem, which is called Fortress of Solitude, and the main character's father is Felipe Wynne, effectively, based on him. Good book, worth reading. If you like comics and music, which I think quite a lot of people out there do, you'll love that book.
Well, that's it, folks. Quite a long video, quite a long session.
Yeah.
But I'm on holiday. John isn't.
I'm not.
Kind of.
But I'm on holiday today.
He's on holiday today. And yes, thank you very much, everyone who's tuning in, subscribing, commenting. I'm very glad to see. We seem to have quite a lot of people watching. And see you soon. Enjoy the rest of the summer.
Yeah, thanks for watching, and see you soon.